This podcast is a quest for well-being, a quest for a meaningful life through the exploration of fundamental truth. Enlightening ideas, insights on physical, mental, and spiritual health. The inspiration is love. The aspiration is to awaken new ways of thinking that can lead us to a new way of being well. Welcome to Body, Mind, and Soul Healing Conversations.
The most important part of grief that you must understand, especially if you have family or friends who are grieving too, is that everyone will grieve and react differently. Every aspect of your grief may be opposite of your mother's, sister's, father's, friends, or partner's. Once you accept that you have no control over other people's actions or grief, you can focus on your needs and give others the acceptance they need to focus on their grief as well. Valeria Teles interviews Megan Young, the author of Life After Loss Workbook, guided exercises and practices to help you understand grief following the death of a loved one. Megan Young is a trained life coach with experience in life transitions and grief. Through the experience with her life coach 13 years ago, Megan discovered the life-changing effect powerful questioning, accountability, and solution-based guidance provides. It wasn't until the passing of her sister that she felt a calling to transition into her current role as a life coach and author of the Life After Loss Workbook. Coach Megan's strong curiosity with human behavior and healing drives her to find innovative and effective techniques for helping her clients. Whether you are transitioning into a different career, experiencing grief, or entering into a new life stage, you will find the support and guidance you need. Megan and her husband have 2 sons, Dudley the cat, and 11 chickens. As a small-town girl who escaped to the city, she finally embraced the saying, "You can take the girl out of the country, but you can't take the country out of the girl," and moved to the Texas Hill Country outside of Austin. There, Megan loves to lend support and encouragement to her community, family, and friends. Meet Megan at CoachMeganYoung.com. Here is the interview with Megan Young.
In your own words, who is Megan Young?
Well, that has changed over the years. I'm not the same person I was 5 years ago or 15 years ago, but and I hope everyone hears that if you're not growing, you might want to check a pulse on it. But,
True.
Consistently in my life, I have different roles, but consistently I've been a student of life and human behavior. I'm an advocate, I'm a best friend, but I've learned so much from that it's definitely steered me in the way direction that I am now. But what's funny when I just thinking about that, like life stages, the stage that I'm in right now, currently as a mom, with 2 kids, 1 and 4, has been the most awakening. And it's probably the biggest learning curve, but the most rewarding. I have more empathy, understanding of the world. So it's right now being a mother, that role of student of life has been kind of opened up in a new, unexpected way. So yeah, it's pretty cool. It's hard, but it's pretty cool.
Yeah, it sounds incredible to me, which I never had the experience, and it seems like I won't have it. So talk to me for a moment about that, actually. Is that something that we women who choose or cannot have children, are we missing something?
I think that, so I went through actually a lot of therapy to decide I wanted to go to this path. And I think that we can find these experiences and what that means through other people. But it's through that caretaking role, through that role that you, and in a sense of innocence as well, that children bring. So whereas I have friends who aren't going to have children, but they're in my life and they're in my life, my kids' life, in a significant way that I can see them growing from it too. So, I think if it's not children, it's just observing the magic that they can bring and learning from that. And, it can happen in that way. Anything that's new to life, I guess you could say.
My second, let's say, official question to you, Megan, is about grief. What is grief to you from today's perspective? And how would you describe the experience of grief?
Grief is unlike any other emotion I've personally felt, and what I've seen in other people that I've helped or my family is that it is, there's stages, sure, but the amount of grief or physical and emotional pull that it brings you and the energy, whether it's bad or you can kind of translate that into good at some points of all of it. It's a roller coaster, but grief, yes, it is. And I also think it's inevitable for a lot of people, for most people in life, right? So if you love someone very deeply, this world, we end in death. So grief, as far as death is related, is something that will probably touch everyone's life. And, I help with people with grief that are, divorced. And a lot of people feel that divorce is a very similar path of letting go to someone you loved as well. But it's such a deep state that takes you through the longest journey of ups and downs that I have ever experienced and consistently have experienced through my own loss. So, yeah.
What is your understanding of balance?
Oh, I hate the word.
Right.
I think that I actually heard one of your interviews where they said it harmony, and that's the word I use a lot for my clients. Because it isn't, I'm a singer actually as well. And harmony to me is, if you're in a choir or you're in an orchestra, you're not hearing the drums as loud, maybe at some points, and the cymbal isn't there as significant. And so, but then there's times where it is. So I think that there's these forces in your life that you kind of have to let come in front and know that just because you aren't giving your time to something doesn't mean it's not important. You just will have to refocus and know that it's still there. Keep very conscious of that and in your decisions. Be very strategic in your days because time is the most important thing that we have. So creating a harmony that flows well with your family and your friends and what you want to give to the world is possible. Other than balance is just, that's, if you look up that word and, the definition of it, I just don't feel like it's adequate. So yeah, I think that harmony is more of the better word for it.
I love that. Yeah. Because harmony also resonates to me as this natural movement of life, just going through it naturally and flowing with life, basically, and not trying to control every aspect of life and trying to make it perfect, because balance does sounds like that. We're trying to reach perfection, right? A point where we are perfectly aligned with some sort of greatness or goodness, and then there's nothing bad happening or nothing unwanted coming along. I'm glad you brought that up. I think it might be words, because most people that I talk to, that's what they're really referring to the harmony within.
Right. Yes.
Life.
And I think that with balance brings a lot of guilt of if I'm not doing this enough, or I'm not, I'm not sticking to this, I'm not giving enough to my friends, or, so it depends on like the aspect of your life that you really are in and focused on, and not trying to like you said, just force it and allowing it to kind of, if that one thing in your life is dominant, go with that. Doesn't mean you have to just shun everything out, but go with that, make that be your focus, and really give it the energy that it deserves, really. And then guess what? Next week you can do something different. Tomorrow you can do something different, but you kind of have to feel it day by day.
What do you feel the purpose of the human experience is, if there is one? And if there is one is the first question. And then what would that be if there is a purpose?
So I feel like everyone has a purpose. I mean, I think that but when I hear that question, what my first response is that I believe so strongly in community. I think that if we don't nurture our community, literally, food and friendship and just fellowship. I mean, I feel like if we don't do that, then we as a human being will not prosper. We won't move forward in life. So I feel that our purpose is to help facilitate that, help grow our communities, help grow within us first, obviously, so that we can give back to others. And, life, you've spoken a lot about love, and I've never felt it so much now than I have in my life, because I have that perspective of losing someone that I've loved, and having people in my life that I dearly love. So that, and at the end of the day, that's my most important thing. So it tracks back to love, like you've said.
Your work is about love, yes. And then you connect that to community, this connectivity with people in life itself, in ourselves first. Yeah, that's a very beautiful and important point to me, because that's how I got to live what we call purpose, which I don't know what that is exactly. Because we don't want to feel like that other people don't have purpose.
Right.
That doesn't make sense. So maybe we can replace that word. I'm not sure what we can say to that. What would you say? Like, what comes to mind, Megan?
Man, I think that I do not know. I think that you're right on. I couldn't ask everyone that, because I know that would not only stump them and almost bring them shame of like, I don't know, right. I'm just living my life in the best way I know how. Right. And so I think that it's just part of that's a piece to the conversation. But, I think just being able to explain what you love about life in general, when you start with just that, it then kind of goes into these other sections of life, whether it be, your job or your friends or your travel or, what really excites you about life. And then that way it's really like finding your why. I've loved reading about that and how to strengthen that and how it changes year after year at some points. So I think that your why is probably more important than your purpose.
Yeah, what came into mind for me is meaning. Is that somehow the same thing, meaning and purpose, or they're different? You don't use either meaning or purpose.
Meaning, I think if we're talking about, I see people who haven't begun their journey yet. Like they are coming to you because they want to start, like they've been living life, no doubt, but they would like to begin a journey into another self, another, level or layer. And I think, their meaning, or purpose, if you were to kind of nail that down, could be in what they do and what they give the world. But I don't know. I think that it's a very intriguing question. What when you gave me that question, what came to mind with you as far as, would you change it as well?
Yeah, those words, right? Meaning and purpose. I love the idea of just living life and flowing with life naturally without labeling even. We don't need labels, right? In that case. What is the meaning of freedom to you? What is this idea of being free?
Oh, I love that. Freedom to me is choosing the people around you to accept you as you, to where you can live the way you would like to live. You would like to express yourself. I had parents growing up that really did that for us. And that gave us the freedom to simply choosing what we wanted to wear, gave us the freedom to express ourselves in this small little town I'm from. But then also freedom is just a freedom of choice to not only live your truth, but under really no rules but your own, or even your higher power, And I think that is ultimately what I would love for everyone.
So you wrote the workbook titled Life After Loss and guided exercise and practices to help you understand grief following the death of a loved one. So talk to me for a moment about the main inspiration and also the intention of writing your book.
Inspiration. So my sister passed 10 years ago in a car wreck, and unexpected, 3 months away from getting married to the love of her life, the most vibrant person in my life, my cheerleader, my advocate. And for these 10 years that she's been gone, it's been brewing in my head through my own therapy. So I've done group therapy, grief groups, life coaching for myself. And through that experience, I found that there was one element missing to go home with, to explore what I've worked on, or continue the conversation in the privacy of my own home. So that was the inspiration to developing something like a workbook that could help me continue my journey outside of one-on-ones or a group or anything of that nature. But also as a stepping stone. There's a lot of people who don't feel that they're ready for that. And so the first exercise is kind of explaining those different types of therapies that are available and what they are and what they can bring. And I think that was also, I'm an advocate for myself in the way that I went out and I found all kinds of, I found the best therapist, I found the best grief group, but there's so many people who don't, and I have a lot of family who didn't. So I wanted to make that accessible and give questions, because I'd read a lot of people's stories and I loved them and I learned from them. But I wanted something for other people to share their story, write their own book almost by using this workbook and understanding their grief.
And speaking of healing, to you, it's healing a destination or a process or something that is ongoing and never ending?
Yes, it's ongoing. But I don't think that I don't like to say the word better for people. I think it changes, and it's year by year for sure. I mean, it's day by day, except for some, especially in that first few stages of grief after losing someone. But healing, my sister actually, my oldest sister, Lauren, she had some delayed grief, and it wasn't until she was ready to really confront that. And I feel like other people are like that, delayed grief, in the way that you really do have to start the journey at some point. And then, so for me, it started really early on, but you never quite, you move through it, you move through your grief, and you never get over it. So, but you find practices, you find ways to cope. And I actually made my heart just so warm. I had a friend I went to high school with, and he was in this very traumatic accident. He was actually shot. And he posted the other day that he would rather be sitting here talking to this person about his trauma than by himself thinking about it. And for this Navy macho man to say this was just like, gosh, he gets it now. It seems so heavy to want to talk about it from the first, but once you start it, it can be so healing. And that's where your healing begins. That's where your journey begins. The moment you decide you want to cope, help, find therapeutics for it.
I love the way you say that same thing in the book, but in a very beautiful way. You write, when you love someone so much that you cannot pack it away, you have to find a way to express it.
Ah, yes.
When you say grief changes, so it seems like what happens is that grief is being expressed, and that's why we label as change, it seems to me. I have never been through it, so I don't know, but I talked to so many people, and my own husband had the experience with his sister passed away too. I can see that he needs to express those emotions. Would that resonate with you?
Oh, yes, 100%. I mean, that is exactly what it is to a T. I wish I had some sort of amazing metaphor or example, but it is exactly that. And you express it, and then inside, and in turn, also you look for ways to bring in the good energy and the good memories, and keep and hold tight to those. But again, a lot of people don't have, like, some of the grief isn't about the good memories. It could be a traumatic experience. And I think that that's where you have to find what's best for you when it comes to how you're going to express that and who you're going to express it with.
True, because we're all unique. Yeah, very much unique. And I wonder sometimes for some people, what do you think happens when some of us don't express grief in a, let's say, healthy way, and we choose to numb instead? That unfortunately happens too. What makes one person more resilient and more expressive than others? Do you think women are better at it?
I mean, I have the most experience with women, but my dad, I will say, no, my dad is a father of 3 girls, so I think he's probably learned a lot from us.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure. Yes.
But so he lost his mother at 14, and a lot of, so this is the thing, guys. He lost his mother at 14, and because he never addressed those emotions, and he really honestly wasn't allowed to at that point of his life. Like, it wasn't talked about. A lot of that was reopened in a different form when my sister passed. And so you're never going to escape it. It will just manifest itself into something else. So I think that the people I would say, even the people who you would say are strong people, even sometimes those aren't the people who are really healing or finding ways to, let's say, for lack of a better word, just deal with their grief. But it could be in the most, the quiet person who just knows that, their heart is calling and it hurts and they need help. So I think that there's not one, even person necessarily, but the people who do choose to understand their grief in some capacity are the ones who will be able to utilize what they've learned and what's going on, and kind of be more present in their grief without it really taking over their life. Because I truly feel that it will take over their health. It will take over their body. They will feel their grief. If you do not address it, you will feel your grief in ways in other parts. So it's really a choice, and those who choose to move forward and really understand it are the ones that could possibly be the person who their friend says, it may be time to join like a free grief group that you don't even have to talk, or, so it's also about that community. How could we help people? Even if you're not the one helping them, how can you at least, be there for someone in that time? And you kind of in turn have to, if you are the griever, you have to allow people in, because you never know what will happen in that.
I have heard that grief is the price of love, was phrased that way. Would you say the same thing or use a different way to say that?
I think that it is very, very adequate for that. It's almost, I've also heard, these are not my words, that it's, grief is a mirror of love, the mirror image. It just is in a different form. And that's why I think it's important to respect that. I do think it is love. And if like I said, if you love someone so much, what are you going to do with all that when they're gone? And, it's a tribute to them. It's what I feel is when you are really examining how much they meant to you, and you are respecting your grief, then you are honoring that person, because because you did care and you did love them so much, and they have impacted your life. So it's up to you to figure out how they've impacted your life, and know that what you learned from that person doesn't stop when they leave this earth. But you have to keep going, and you have to keep asking yourself why, and among other questions that can really lead to you learning a lot. I still to this day learn so much from my sister, and it's really beautiful. And gosh, I think that's what's kept me going. If I could tell anyone, what's really kept me going is continuing to learn from her, and reliving moments, and understanding who she was and what she wanted to offer the world, and how she lived her life, like the example of all that, over why is she gone?
Right.
I choose to do it different.
Did you learn that from someone, or this is something that you discovered within yourself?
I started discovering this when I was in a grief group, and I started listening to other people tell their story, and I started learning from their loved one, and they're not even here, and I didn't even know them. And so I was thinking, wow, I really need to focus on that. That's what's going to get me through this. I need to go back to my sister and our childhood, our upbringing, everything that we've really lived together, and continue that, because that's what's going to get me through this. I think it was just, again, with a group of people, and us sharing our grief, and learning that their why, their purpose on life to be in our lives, is really really beautiful, and something that we really need to reflect on.
Can we somehow prepare to lose someone we love and suffer less, or feel less of those ups and downs of the grieving process?
The answer is no.
I get that every time. Yeah. Yes.
I think, I'm glad you asked this question, because it is a question that I've asked myself. It's a question that I've, when I was creating this book, like it definitely. And when you're speaking to people who are in hospice, or caregivers, people who family have to care for the people who are terminally ill, like those people know it best, that even though I've been carrying and I know the inevitable, it doesn't make it any different. And I think that a pastor once said to me, if you knew exactly the reason why they were taken from this earth, would it erase your grief? I was like, absolutely not. It wouldn't. I mean, that the answer is no. So I think that even if you prepare and someone tells you you're going to be without this person, or, there are ways to prepare for the aftermath of it in some capacity, but not in the way that you're going to skip a stage of grief, or you're not going to feel the effects or really grieve in any less, to be honest. Yeah.
So your workbook, you have lots of exercise, 5 of them, right, Megan? I had access to 2, but 5 of them. The first one, exercise 1, access your emotional needs. Exercise 2, define the right kind of why. Exercise 3, plan for the road ahead. 4, learn coping strategies. 5, create a new beginning. So talk to me about the why exercise.
Sure. So this goes back to, we are a cause and effect society. We want to know why things happen. And in science, and even in just regular life, we're taught, that if you do this, then this is what will happen, or this is what could happen. I mean, so with that said, I think that the why needed to be reframed when I did go through that first grief group, in order to not dwell on the why did this happen? Why did she have to have cancer? Why did this 18-wheeler decide to be reckless? Why her and not me? With survivor's guilt, this is a huge thing. Why her and not me? And so on and so forth. So the why is to really direct your questioning to why were they in your life? So that, if you think of your mother, your father, your sister, your brother, your husband, whoever it may be, they had an impact. And that impact is why they were here, why they were taken too early, or, just in general, just taken from this earth. That is a question we will never know fully. And so that's why I choose to reframe that question and have a more healthy perspective, because once you dive into that alone, it opens up a world of the lessons and love again. So you felt that love when they were here in your presence, and so it really does give you a reconnection almost to them.
I have noticed that grief or losing somebody we love is one of the most painful experiences we can have in a human body. Does it resonate with you, that statement?
Oh, yes. It's there. The days leading, up to the funeral was difficult, and then after the funeral. But I remember waking up some days and my body just feeling, physically ill, but also just unlike anything I have ever experienced on the depth of it. I've had heartbreak in my life. That hard heartbreak. I've had all kinds of things. And that's not to say that first of all, one grief is not bigger than the other. It's just different, and there's different layers. Like with a parent, it could be a different layer to that. But I do think that it's by far in my opinion, the most painful experience, physically, mentally, spiritually, all of the, it makes you question everything about your life. It literally explodes your life. And then you're picking up the pieces of, do I believe in this anymore? What am I doing in my life? I mean, there's so many questions. So that's why I do what I do, is because there are so many questions and people are so lost after, that you just need a little guidance into kind of rebuilding your life again.
And the first exercise, I think we talked earlier about the choices we have, those going through the grieving process, the grief. So we're choosing what is the right group, the right method, the right healing method to engage with. And you give so many options and you explain, because that goes back to understanding, right? It's so important that we get to feel the feelings and understand them, because that's what they're here for. They're trying to say something. So we need to understand the feelings, listen to them, understand, and then express it. So we're almost at the end. I do have a few more questions for you. Would you like to add anything or read a passage or any section in your book?
I think that I would like to add that it takes a lot of energy and time and preparing to share your story. So I just want to tell anyone in grief that if you see someone like myself or hear my story and I seem so open about it, it has been a process, like you've said. And you just have to start with baby steps at some points. But I promise you that once you open up the door to healing in some capacity, that fear of unknown will start to melt more and more. And then you will be in the position to just keep doing the work. Just that one first step. It could be this book. It could be a grief group. It could be finding the right therapist. It could be just telling your family what you need in your grief. But that first step is the most important one.
I'm wondering why it's so challenging for most of us to do that. It was my case with so many other challenges I had in life, taking that first step. And that's why you keep saying community. It's so important, because that will lead us to take that first step. No
yes,
doubt.
Exactly. Yes.
2 more questions for you. What is another word for healing? What comes to mind?
Healing, I'd say growth. And my hesitation with that is I don't want people to think that bad things happen, like, death, or a death that is, very traumatic, and that you're meant to grow from that. You can choose to grow, and you can choose to change in your ways, in some capacity, but it doesn't mean that was the purpose of it. But I do feel that healing, when you do choose to heal, you choose to grow, and that could be grow in love, in just the way that you see the world, so many different ways, but growth is, the word I'd use for sure.
What comes to me is a change in perception or perspective.
Yes.
That sounds to me like it's growth in a very profound way. My last question to you is, what are 3 things about life you know for sure as of this moment?
Wow. I don't know a lot. No, let's see. I would say, if I'm just going to personally speak, what I know for sure is that when you put in the work and effort, because I don't want to minimize this. It is a lot of work to maintain your mental health. But it is so rewarding that it's like that marathon runner who keeps going, even though they know they're going to be painful come mile, I don't know, whatever, to 12, they have to keep pushing. They keep doing marathons because they know the reward of achievement and perseverance is going to outweigh everything else. So I think that is what I know for sure. When you keep doing and keep striving, then you will see the reward. Second, that, oh man, to love is, again, the most rewarding thing, to give love and to allow yourself to receive it. And that includes loving yourself, is the second thing. And the third thing would be that, no loss, no grief, no death should ever be minimized. It could be a cat. It could be, your loved one or someone you haven't seen in 10 years. If you feel that, it is real. That's what I know. It is real. And if that emotion, is driven by that loss, then that means that you did love and you did care. And, so don't ever let anyone minimize that, for sure.
Thank you so much, Megan, again, for your presence, for sharing your wisdom, the work you do, helping others to see that it's possible to find inner peace or joy, whatever the destination is. We all want to be happy. We want to be in that peaceful place. And that's what your contribution is. Thank you again.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that.
Before we say goodbye, where can we find more information about you, your books, products, services, and future projects?
So all of my platforms are Coach Megan Young. So it's coachmeganyoung.com. It's Coach Megan Young on Instagram and Facebook. That's MEGANYOUNG. And I think everything that I offer is there. And of course, you can email me, coachmeganyoung@gmail.com. So
I'll have your website on the podcast profile. Thank you so much again, Megan, and we'll talk soon.
Thank you.
Bye for now.
Thank you for listening. To learn more about Megan Young and her work, please visit coachmeganyoung.com.
To learn more about this podcast, please visit fitforjoy.org/podcast. Thank you again for listening, and bye for now.